The Taos Hum. In a quiet desert town with around 6,500 people, there's been a really unsettling phenomenon since the early 90s. Many people have reported hearing a faint humming sound that seems to pulse through the air. Most of them describe it as a low and steady sound, with some saying that it sounds like a faraway engine or a faint vibration in the ground. This is the mystery of the Taos Hum, reported by some residents of Taos, New Mexico. Unusually, not everyone is able to hear it, with one study reporting that only about 2% of residents can hear it. As soon as it became widely known, researchers from the University of New Mexico tried to find out what was really happening. They wanted to test whether the hum was a real sound in the environment, so Joe Mullins, an engineering professor, led a careful investigation. The team surveyed residents and placed very sensitive instruments inside the homes of people who said they could hear the hum. After weeks of recording and monitoring, the researchers did not find anything unusual. The fact that people describe it differently made scientists think the Taos Hum might not be one single sound. It might be different experiences being grouped under the same name. That raised a bigger question. Is the source outside in the environment, inside the human ear, or even in the imagination? Many explanations have been suggested over the years. Some residents blamed secret military activity and technology being tested in the New Mexico desert, while some even went as far as to theorize about UFO bases. There were no factories nearby that fit the story, no buried transmitters, and no ground vibrations strong enough to explain it. A more likely explanation, some researchers argue, involves how human hearing works. Our hearing is not perfectly silent, even when the world around us is quiet. The ear itself can produce tiny internal sounds. These are called spontaneous autoacoustic emissions, which simply means faint sounds made by the ear on its own. Most people never notice them because normal daily noise covers them up. But in a very quiet place like rural Taos, those internal sounds might become easier to notice, especially for people who are unusually sensitive to low-frequency sounds. Some people who reported hearing the hum said they still heard it even after moving away from Taos. That supports the idea that the sound might not come from the environment at all. Neurologists such as Oliver Sacks have described similar experiences as harmless auditory hallucinations. FRB 202402009A. For years, fast radio bursts, also called FRBs, have been tied to the violent deaths of young, massive stars. They are mysterious flashes of radio energy that last only milliseconds, and they come from far outside our galaxy. However, a recent discovery, made by a collaboration between different universities and observatories, has changed that usual thought. For the first time, astronomers have traced a repeating FRB to the edge of an old, quiet elliptical galaxy. An elliptical galaxy is a large, rounded galaxy that often contains mostly old stars. In this case, the galaxy is also inactive, meaning it stopped forming new stars billions of years ago. That FRB was first detected in February 2024, and over the next 5 months, astronomers recorded 21 more bursts from the same spot in the sky. To figure out exactly where the bursts were coming from, researchers used brand new stations. Once the position was pinned down, they followed up with optical telescopes, which are telescopes that observe visible light. They used 2 of the world's most powerful optical instruments, and they were able to estimate that the galaxy is about 2 billion light years away from Earth. What they learned about it was striking. The galaxy is massive, with a mass of about 100 billion times that of the Sun, and it's about 11 billion years old. It's essentially a dead galaxy, meaning that stars aren't being born there. The researchers found no evidence for young, hot stars or for ongoing star birth, so they could not understand why they saw that FRB. Even more surprising is where the FRB sits inside that galaxy. It is located about 130,000 light years from the galaxy's center. This puts the FRB well beyond the area where most of the galaxy's stars are found. Out of roughly 100 FRBs with known host galaxies, none have been found farther from their galaxy's core than this one. There are many theories on why that FRB was detected, such as tight swarms of very old stars that orbit in the outer regions of a galaxy called globular clusters. In those environments, stars might form later in time through mechanisms other than supernovas from young stars, such as the merger of 2 neutron stars, the collapse of a white dwarf, and other interactions. To test the globular cluster idea, the researchers plan to use the James Webb Space Telescope to take high-resolution images. Still, as of now, there are no certain answers. Levantine Iron Age Anomaly. A new study has found that Earth's magnetic field went through an extraordinary burst of strength about 3,000 years ago during the height of ancient Mesopotamian civilization, when major historical developments like the rise of the Babylonian Empire and the early Iron Age across the Near East happened. By studying the magnetic memory stored in clay bricks made by early builders in Babylon and nearby city-states, researchers have rebuilt a record of one of the strongest magnetic events ever identified in Earth's history. This was called the Levantine Iron Age Geomagnetic Anomaly. Earth's magnetic field is normally a protective shield created by the movement of molten iron deep inside the planet's core. And in this period, that field seems to have been supercharged, reaching more than 1.5 times its strength today. The Levantine anomaly is one of the short-lived magnetic spikes that appear in Earth's magnetic history, but scientists still do not fully understand what causes them. Some computer models suggest these spikes come from temporary changes in how the molten outer core flows and reorganizes, but we have no sure explanation. Unknown cosmic rays' powerful sources. Astronomers were scanning the sky for one kind of cosmic signal, and they ended up finding something they did not expect at all. They found an unexplained glow of very high-energy gamma rays coming from beyond our galaxy, from an unknown and very powerful source. What makes the results so strange is not only that the signal showed up where nobody expected it, but also that it is 10 times stronger than existing theory says it should be. The research team that reported this was originally looking for something completely different. They were searching for a very faint pattern in gamma rays that should match a pattern seen in the cosmic microwave background, usually called the CMB. The CMB is, put simply, the light left over from the Big Bang. It's often described as the oldest light in the universe, and it fills the entire sky as a faint haze of microwave light. Now, to give you the right context, we'll use a simple analogy. Imagine you are driving a car through the rain. The rain hits your front windshield hard, while the back window stays mostly dry. In space, scientists see a similar pattern in the light left over from the Big Bang, which is the CMB we were talking about. One side of the sky looks slightly brighter than the other, and for a long time, the main theory was that this happens simply because our solar system is moving through space toward the constellation Leo, creating that same windshield effect. To prove this theory, scientists decided to look at gamma rays. They reasoned that if we are truly moving toward Leo, the gamma rays should also look brighter in that direction, just like the background light does. However, the results were completely unexpected. They found a pattern, but it was in the wrong place and far too intense. The gamma rays were strongest in the southern sky rather than toward Leo, and the signal was 10 times stronger than it would be if it were caused only by our movement through space. Since the gamma ray signal did not match the movement theory, scientists looked for other things coming from that specific spot in the southern sky and found a surprising connection. It turns out that ultra-high energy cosmic rays, which are super-fast particles hitting Earth, arrive from the exact same direction as the weird gamma rays. Even more interestingly, the intensity of the cosmic rays matches the intensity of the gamma rays perfectly, suggesting that these two mysteries are actually linked. One possibility is that there is a massive unknown power source in that part of the distant universe. We don't know for sure what that source is. It could be a cluster of giant black holes or something else. Another possibility is that our original idea about why the sky looks different on one side is incomplete, meaning this might not just be about our solar system moving. Deep sea flashback event. Imagine sitting in complete darkness over 1,300 feet under the Indian Ocean. Then, all at once, the water around you starts glowing in moving patches of blue and green. That is what filmmaker Jacob Harrell and his team saw when they went searching for a strange deep-sea light show called the Flashback. This phenomenon occurs when a sudden burst of light triggers the surrounding deep-sea creatures to light up in return. What makes the flashback special is that it is not just an animal glowing by itself. It seems to be a coordinated response. When a bright light appears in the darkness, some creatures react by lighting up in return. It is like they flash back at the light as if answering it. Scientists still do not know why they do this. Harrell's dive had two main goals: to record the flashback on video and to help with a biodiversity survey, which is a study of what living things are found in an area. Harrell explained why filming a flashback is so difficult. It happens deep underwater, often between 650 feet and roughly 3,300 feet below the surface. Sunlight cannot reach those depths. And in that dark zone, about 80% of sea life is bioluminescent, which means that animals that glow by themselves are very common there. There are several ideas. Some scientists think animals flash to distract predators. Others think the light could help them hunt, lure prey, or communicate with each other. Studying this is very hard. The deep sea is cold, completely dark, and under enormous pressure, so dives are dangerous and chances to observe anything are rare. Also, when scientists use submersibles to explore, the bright lights needed to see can scare, scatter, or confuse the very animals they are trying to study. On this expedition, Harrell's team went down to about 1,230 feet, and they began using short, controlled bursts of light to see if they could trigger a flashback. They had to be careful. If they used too much light, the animals might be overwhelmed, blinded, or driven away. But if they used too little, nothing would show up on camera. After several tries, it worked. Above the submersible, faint but clear waves of light appeared in the dark water. This confirmed the existence of the phenomenon, but we still don't know why it happens. Saturn's dark beads and six-pointed star. When astronomers aimed the James Webb Space Telescope at Saturn's North Pole, they expected to see patterns they already knew. Instead, they saw something that confused them. Above Saturn's famous six-sided storm, called the hexagon, there were dark, bead-like spots. They looked like strings of shadows stretched across. Underneath them, in a lower layer of Saturn's atmosphere, Webb also saw a strange shape. It looked like a lopsided star with 4 arms, and it glowed faintly in infrared light. Nothing like either of these features has ever been seen before on any planet. Tom Stallard, the astronomer leading the study, said the results were a complete surprise. The dark beads were spaced very far apart, but they still seemed to form a rough pattern. It was also not clear how or if they were connected to the star-shaped glow underneath. He said, "These features were completely unexpected and at present are completely unexplained. The team has some theories, but no answers yet. They suspect the beads might be linked to interactions between Saturn's magnetic field and its fast-spinning atmosphere. The star-shaped pattern might also be connected to the hexagon below it, but that is not clear either. One of the most interesting clues is that the darkest beads above seem to line up with the brightest arm of the star pattern underneath. That could mean the upper and lower layers are somehow linked." Venus's anomalies. In 2020, something unusual happened that made scientists around the world pay close attention to Venus. A research team reported that they might have found phosphine in Venus's atmosphere. The crazy thing is that phosphine is a gas that on Earth is often connected with living things. One reason it mattered so much is that phosphine does not stay around for long in the air. It breaks down unless something keeps making it. The news created a lot of excitement, but when other research groups checked the data and went to look for the gas again, they could not confirm it. However, that wasn't the only anomaly on Venus. For example, some gases appear to be out of balance, meaning they are sitting together in a mix that should not last very long. In many cases, ordinary chemical reactions should have changed those gases into other chemicals by now, and yet the gases are still there. It can mean something active is happening, and it could be something non-living, like volcanoes or sunlight-driven reactions, but it could also, in some cases, point to biological activity. One of the largest puzzles is something scientists call the unknown absorber. For about 100 years, telescopes have shown that parts of Venus's clouds absorb UV light very strongly. This strong UV absorption shows up as dark streaks in the clouds, which move across the planet as the clouds rotate. The thing is, nobody knows what is causing those dark UV absorbing streaks. Scientists have suggested dozens of possible chemicals, especially chemicals that contain sulfur, but none of the candidates match all the evidence. Even after detailed observations by 2 spacecraft orbiting Venus in the 2000s, there still was no clear match. This unknown absorber is not a small curiosity either. It absorbs more than half of the sunlight that hits Venus. Some scientists have also noticed something interesting. The way the unknown absorber absorbs light looks surprisingly similar to how certain kinds of bacteria on Earth absorb light. That has led some people to speculate that the absorber could be biological material floating in the clouds. That idea is controversial, and many scientists are skeptical, but it has not been fully ruled out. Vanishing and appearing sources, VASCO. Imagine looking up at the night sky and noticing a star that used to be there, but now it is gone without any explosion, fading or obvious trace left behind. That strange idea is what inspired the VASCO project. The team compares old photographs of the sky taken many decades ago with modern digital sky surveys. They want to see whether anything has truly disappeared or whether something has suddenly appeared in a place where there used to be nothing. When the researchers first tried this in 2016, they compared about 10 million stars. They used an old sky survey and compared it to newer data. In that search, they found one object that looked like it had vanished. It appeared clearly in a red image from 1950 taken at the Palomar Observatory, but it did not show up in any newer pictures. At first glance, it looked like a vanished star. That seems impossible unless something very unusual happened, such as a star collapsing directly into a black hole without a bright explosion. To check what was going on, the team went back and re-examined the original photographic plates. They also used larger telescopes to look again at the same patch of sky. What they found made the mystery more complicated. Near the old position, they detected 2 faint red objects. These were much dimmer than the original object on the 1950 plate, and they might have been the same object after it faded. That suggested 2 main theories. One theory was that it was a variable star, meaning a star whose brightness changes over time, that had dimmed by more than 4 magnitudes. Another theory was that the 1950 detection was a red flare from a small star. A flare is a sudden burst of light, and it could have made a normally faint star briefly bright enough to be seen in 1950. They also thought of a third theory. Maybe it was just a tiny dust grain or a chemical mark that looked like a small point of light. The team tested that idea. They measured the shape of the light on the old plate, and it matched the shape made by real stars. That helped rule out the just a defect theory, making the story even stranger. To learn whether this was a one-time odd case or part of something bigger, VASCO expanded the search. This time they compared about 600 million old observations with newer data from Pan-STARRS. Pan-STARRS is a modern digital survey of the sky that goes much deeper, meaning it can detect much fainter stars than the old plates could. The time gap between these two surveys was about 70 years, which gave the researchers a rare chance to see how the sky changes over a human lifetime. From this huge comparison, they found about 150,000 mismatches. In this context, a mismatch means a star-like point seen in the old plates that had no matching object in Pan-STARRS. Most of these mismatches turned out to have straightforward explanations. Some were measurement errors, some were stars that had moved slightly, and some were faint variable stars that sometimes became too dim to detect. However, after the team examined thousands of these cases by eye, about 100 objects stood out. These were point-like sources that appeared in just one old image and nowhere else. All of them were bright only in the red filter and not in the blue filter. The team then suggested several other theories for these. Some could be flares from M-dwarf stars, which are small, cool red stars, and they are known to brighten dramatically for short periods. Others might be high redshift supernovae, which are stellar explosions so far away that the light is stretched by the expansion of the universe and shifted toward red wavelengths by the time it reaches us. Still, a few objects did not fit the obvious patterns, and we have no clear answers. The researchers also checked the most common, easy explanations one by one. Could these have been asteroids? They argued no, because the images showed no streaks. During long exposures, an asteroid usually moves enough to make a line instead of a stationary dot. These looked stationary. Could they be stars that simply moved across the sky? That also seemed unlikely, because only a handful of stars are known to have enough motion to shift so much that they would effectively vanish from one position over that time span. Some people started thinking that these one-time only events could, in theory, resemble artificial signals, such as an advanced civilization, sending a powerful, narrow laser pulse, lasting only a few seconds or minutes. The project does not claim that this is what happened, but it does leave the door open. Most treat these sources as just possible natural events until proven otherwise. ANITA's upward radio pulses. Scientists tried to see if they could receive data from outer space, but they actually received it from underneath Antarctica's ground. This experiment was called ANITA, short for the Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, and it was designed to detect ultra-high-energy cosmic neutrinos. Neutrinos are tiny particles with almost no mass, and they can pass through entire planets without leaving a trace. Scientists hoped that if they could catch the rare moments when these neutrinos hit the Antarctic ice, they could learn where the universe's most energetic cosmic rays come from. Most of the time, though, ANITA didn't find anything too crazy. However, 2 times during the ANITA 1 and ANITA 3 flights, and again in ANITA 4, it detected signals that did not fit the expected pattern. These unusual signals looked like they were produced by a particle that traveled upward through thousands of miles of solid Earth, then burst out of the ice and produced a radio pulse that ANITA could detect. According to the standard model of particle physics, which is the main set of rules scientists use to describe known particles and how they behave, that should not happen. Even neutrinos should not be able to pass through Earth at the steep angles suggested by the data, because Earth is simply too thick. At the time, the results created both excitement and confusion. Some people suggested ANITA might be seeing hints of new physics. They proposed ideas such as an unknown type of particle, or even a signal connected to dark matter. Others argued that the strange events might be caused by the experiment itself, or by unusual conditions in the environment that scientists did not fully understand yet. To sort this out, researchers compared ANITA's observations with results from 2 major ground-based detectors. Both are built to detect cosmic rays and neutrinos, but neither one saw anything that matched ANITA's mysterious events. Stephanie Wissel, a physicist at Penn State who worked on the ANITA team, put it this way: "While the origin of these events is still unclear, our new study indicates that such events have not been seen by an experiment with a long exposure like the Pierre Auger Observatory. So, it does not indicate that there is new physics, but rather more information to add to the story." To get clearer answers, researchers are now building a new and more advanced instrument called PUEO, which is short for Payload for Ultra-High Energy Observations. If you want to discuss this video or suggest an idea for the next one, join my Discord, link in the description.